This is What a Week.
What a Week. Politricks.
Eta, welcome to another episode of Wow What a Week, #Politricks, with Fresh and Botsang by my side, and indeed, what a week. The president went to court to stop Parliament from asking him about the couch, and he won. The DA says pension is sitting on a bonfire. The ANC's answer to Helen Zille is a 75-year-old reverend. Chidimma is fighting to stay in the only country she's ever called home, while Home Affairs hold the door open. The head of the corruption-busting unit admitted she misled Parliament under oath, and Ghana has reported us to the principal's office at the AU. It's Politricks.
Yes, Fresh. Very tricky. Yeah, morning, Fresh. Great morning to the viewers, followers, subscribers, and everybody else.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
The Section 89 saga takes another turn. The Western Cape High Court yesterday ruled that granting Ramaphosa's interdict to stop the Phala Phala impeachment committee with his review application set down for 2 to 4 September. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Fresh, one, I must say, being in the Western Cape, I'm one of the people who says the judiciary is no longer as independent as we're made to believe it is.
Okay.
Any judgment against President Ramaphosa in Gauteng, especially Gauteng North, as well as the Western Cape, it will never be against President Ramaphosa for as long as he's in office.
Why do you say that?
It's like I said, our judiciary is playing into politics. It has played into the political space for quite a lot. And I've talked in the past about overreaching. And you look at the Jacob Zuma's cases, for many years, when he was in power and favored, he could postpone and delay and derail all his cases, many, not one, not two, many cases. And the minute he became out of the favor politically, the judgments tends to be against him, almost all judgments, even for his political party. And we are seeing the same practice. It cannot be a coincidence that you become the darling of the courts when you are in power. And as soon as you are out of favor politically, you are no longer that person, you understand? And it's playing out that way. I've mentioned the scenarios that President Ramaphosa, whatever case he takes to court, he comes out victorious. President Zuma or former President Zuma, whatever case he takes to court after being the president, he loses them. While when they were in power, you will see how President Ramaphosa will start losing the cases in the last year of political power. And for me, it says to me, the judiciary, it's not captured, but it's being influenced by the political aura that we find ourselves in. It has an influence in them making decisions. Legally and practically, it makes sense to me that and now let's take what the Constitutional Court had said. It said until the Section 89 decision or report has been set aside. So it opened a room for that. That until it's set aside. So it makes sense that why do you want to continue with to continue with an impeachment process when actually there's a possibility and a legal platform where the impeachment process or the report that you want to use to impeach is being set aside. Am I happy with it? I am not. I think it's a play, and it's not about me. I've explained how the law operates, but I think it's another delaying tactic from a president. It is well within his rights. I've said it continuously, but we expect a difference from President Ramaphosa.
But it's a temporary, so only temporary hold.
It is, especially that the Concord was specific. Even this judgment is specific to say until the review or the review has taken the matter and review has been completed. It is set for the 17th or whatever, sometimes in September. But Fresh, we know how the judiciary works. We've seen, I've always said President Zuma has either used or abused or exploited or taught us how you can maximize the utilization of the provisions of the law. The 17th of September, we are not going to get judgment on that day. Obviously, those judges will have to go. I assume it's going to be a full bench, and they are going to go and to decide. It will take about another week or two to make a decision, because this is a very critical point. Let's say we receive the judgment in October as a nation, and it says President Ramaphosa, no, to President Ramaphosa, no, your application is dismissed, your appeal application is dismissed, and therefore you will the Section 89 report is accepted. President Ramaphosa still has a right to can take that decision of September on appeal. Even the other party, ATM, or the respondents in this case, the parliament and the ATM, and the Section 89, because you are also ruling against the decision of the judge who presided over that, so they'll be listed as the respondents in this instance. I think it was led by Justice Madlanga, ironically or coincidentally. He may take it on review. Even them, the other parties, the respondents, they still have the right to can take it on review, on appeal, the decision that we'll get in September. When will be the next date? We'll probably get the date of next year. Understand? Look, I'll use the labor appeal court. That's where I am with my labor matter. Look at how I was granted leave to appeal in December last year. The matter is still has to sit for judgment. So the delay in courts, even if you go on urgent basis, the timing and all that. So it's going to be a delay in tactic. And if they rule, now let's get back to politics and the committee. If the court come in September and rule in favor of President Ramaphosa, the work that would have been done by the impeachment committee or the ad hoc committee for impeachment would be fruitless. That's why I think the current judgment of yesterday, the two of the three judges had said he has presented a strong case, and they've now held back the committee not to proceed with the impeachment process. It brings back a political question. Does that mean, and I haven't read the judgment, but does it mean the impeachment committee or the ad hoc committee for impeachment in parliament must stop doing its preparatory work? I would say politically and in the interest of time, I think the committee should proceed to do preparatory work, like for finalizing its terms of reference, because they have not been finalized. They had until 6 p.m. on Friday to give names, because there's a dispute also there of the names of the evidence leader.
Yeah, in fact, the committee was mid-stride when the whistle blew on Friday morning, and they just narrowed their evidence leader short list after several senior advocates said they were not available. And the next meeting was scheduled for 29 July. The big question is, does all of that stop? Or do you continue preparing anyway?
I don't know if the judgment stops them from doing their work, because I don't think it does. I don't think it does, because they are doing their work. And it's preparatory work. And I would say they should rather continue. And you see, they've got the date of the 29th of July to get. So there's still a lot of, paperwork, administrative work, preparatory work that this committee has to do. For the best interest of time and justice, I think the committee must go ahead and do all these things. Look, first, we are already in end of July. So they will have only the whole of August that they may lose, because also gathering of information, fresh and the viewers, from the 29th of July, once the evidence leader is appointed, let's say they reach an agreement on the 29th of July, and they appoint the evidence leader, because they're also having a problem in that they're differing. You know what I always say, politicians like to recycle people. When you look at the senior councils that they had nominated, it's people who we always see in these political cases. Two of them have actually represented President Ramaphosa in court. Will it be fair that the evidence leader also sits there? But I want to say, let them get a neutral person, somebody who has not acted. And South Africa has a nice, very big pool of councils, and who will be very neutral in this whole thing. To take somebody who has represented the president before, some people will argue that no, but when you are a lawyer, one day you may be on the side of this. You are not conflicted if you declared and it's known. Lawyers, judges, they are human beings.
Now, the committee had also agreed to consider fresh evidence from Action SA, including SAP's disciplinary findings that cleared 2 senior presidential protection officers implicated in Phala Phala. Yes. And just for the record and for disclosure purposes, Botsang is running for council.
What do you call it? MMC.
Yes.
Member of the Mayoral Council, yes.
Yes, under Action SA. We just need to disclose that so that there's no...
Yeah. Look, what came out, you see, that's another thing in delaying cases. You remember in one of our discussions, I said the longer the president takes for this matter to be settled, the more evidence will come out. And I did not know at the time, and Action SA did not know at the time what would have been in the docket or what do you call it, statements of SAPS, on the internal hearing of SAPS. So what Action SA did, they requested the court formally, through the court, the SAPS can supply them as a political party with the documents of the entire hearing of General Rutte, who was the presidential protection unit leader for President Ramaphosa. And in those documents, because there's an internal disciplinary hearing inside SAPS, they cleared him. In those documents, there's evidence that Action SA believes that it actually strengthened the case of ATM and the Section 89 report. It's evidence that was never in the public space. And that shows that actually the president had committed, false information and all that. And they believe very strongly that it will strengthen the case of Parliament. So more and more things will come out.
In fact, on X or Twitter, Papi says the man who promised transparency keeps asking courts to delay the one forum where he'd have to answer under oath.
What did I say at the beginning of our conversation? This is the gentleman who came with a ticket of transparency. This is the gentleman who said, Chumamina, things are going to be different. But look, they all say that when they take oath. But we expected more from President Ramaphosa. Maybe we are unfair on him because we know how politicians conduct themselves as soon as they take office. And I don't think he's in a position to want to be impeached. It will be actually a slap on the president's face should he be impeached while he was seen to be the cleanest president we have ever had.
So yeah, it becomes a blight on your legacy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been calls actually from people who are on the opposite side of President Ramaphosa to say, looking at the facts, looking at the economic performance, looking at the levels of state capture and corruption under his 2 terms, he's actually the worst president that we have ever had. Look at President Ramaphosa being a businessman, an astute business person. But under his leadership, this country has borrowed money than any other president, even under the presidency of Jacob Zuma, who was seen by many to have been the worst president, uneducated we have ever had. And look at the borrowing we have. We borrowed it, even our municipalities like City of Joburg, borrowing money from France at a local municipal level. We exhaust our borrowing capacity from IMF and the World Bank, and that's not all fresh. We borrowed money from the BRICS Development Bank, the DBS. We're borrowing everywhere. So I think the longer this matter takes, the more it's going to taint the legacy of President Ramaphosa. And like I said the other day, you asked me, how would I have advised him? I would have said, tell the truth, face the music, or leave this thing and step aside, or resign while, get out of it before we dig deeper into it. But more of the dirty linen is going to be exposed the longer it takes with this matter.
Can we move to the P.I.C? Masondo resigns as P.I.C chair as Godonkwana prepares sweeping board overhaul. What's going on?
No, for those who do not know, the P.I.C is is a typical South African, we like abbreviation, the Public Investment Corporation.
Okay, and they oversee 3.6 trillion rand
Yes.
of pensions.
Mainly over 85% of those pensions are from the public service sector. So if you are a public servant, whether in an entity or agency, whatever, and the main all government employees, your pensions are sitting in the
nurse,
public investment.
teacher,
Yes.
garbage collector, all of
Everybody.
it.
Yes. And it is one of the biggest, pension, pot in the continent, actually. And one of the biggest in the world. It is the biggest in the continent, one of the biggest in the world. To sit at 3 trillion, it's equal to probably the annual budget of the country.
Now, the resignation, Yamasondo, comes after months of turmoil, including suspension of CEO Patrick Dlamini, 6 non-executive directors walking out, protected disclosures to Parliament, and a governance probe by the FSCA.
Fresh, that's very scary. It's actually not only the CEO who's suspended. A week after he was suspended, even the CIO, Chief Investment Officer, was suspended, actually. So the 2 executives are on suspension. 6 board members who are non-executive, as he said, walked out and resigned. Now, where it's becoming scary and concerning, and thanks God for me being selfish now, I don't have a pension fund, and I've long chowed my pension when I left the public service years back.
Before we get there, because the speculation about the Monday meeting that's supposed to happen was that Masondo would be replaced. But by Thursday night, he'd already resigned. And before he resigned, his parting statement was that investigations must not be swept under the carpet.
That is the scariest part. I don't know how was Minister Godongwana going to replace Masondo, because David Masondo is the Deputy Minister of Finance.
And that's another discussion we should be having, but let's carry on.
Yeah, no, despite that, the act that informs the formation of the P.I.C, as well as the Treasury regulation, requires or recommends that the Deputy Minister of Finance must be the chairperson. So it's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake, yes.
It's not a mistake.
No, but what people are arguing, though, is should that not be reviewed? Is it overreach? Is it being conflicted? Or do you need someone to keep a hawk's eye on the thing?
I don't know how did the government arrive at this, because the normal practice in entities, the P.I.C is an entity, the normal practice is that the department, any other, like let me use transport for example, in the transport entities, the department will have a representative. Yes. And a functionary, not a political appointment, a functionary civil servant.
And that's the argument of some of the unions.
I think it should have been like that. I don't know what informed, I actually haven't informed myself what informed the Treasury that its deputy minister should be serving on the board, or should actually be the chair of the board of the P.I.C and other entities. But what I wanted to say, Fresh, was when they announced on Monday that it should be replaced, when the rule and the regulations say the chairperson of the board should or must be, and I'm not sure which should or must be, the deputy minister, or is the deputy minister of finance, whom were you going to replace with? And were you going to go against the policy position?
Yes, because the policy is clear.
The policy is clear, and take somebody for the very first time in their history outside the...
But if he is resigning, what is he saying? Who must replace him? Because surely, unless the deputy minister is replaced, then you're going to sit with an empty chair there.
Yes, but what I'm saying is it's they've actually called the nation, and especially with the comments, his resignation comments, to say, is he remaining as a deputy minister? Are we going to take somebody from outside who is being investigated when the chairperson of a board resigns on the eve of being replaced? Because we were promised on Monday that he'll be replaced this week or very soon. And how did they come? The other difficulty, Fresh, is both the minister and the deputy minister are comrades. They come from the ANC. And whether we like it or not as a nation, ANC or any political party deployees, they toe the line of the political party. They are informed by the decisions. And like I said, whether we like it or not, for these ministers being moved, being deployed, be appointed, and the line they push, the instructions comes from Luthuli House. The ANC, NEC, or top 6, 7 makes a decision that their deployees will have to implement. So it's a very complex situation whereby the two ministers, the minister and the deputy, are from the ANC. He decides to resign, and then Mr. Masondo is one of political figures that, I'm one of the people who respect him, who have not had dark clouds hanging over them. It's going to be very difficult. I don't know how they're going to get out of this. I know to replace him, obviously, you can have a temporary chairperson of the board because it cannot be in vacuum. But I wonder what is happening at the P.I.C. I've got a friend who works there, who used to work with me, who works there. And every time I ask him, trying to suck info from him about P.I.C., he never wants to talk. He is so disciplined. He doesn't even want to have that discussion.
That's good. No, because, the core fix, we're told, was meant to be an independent panel shortlisting board candidates on merit. The minister wouldn't appoint anyone not recommended, and the board would select its own chairperson, and in the tradition of the deputy finance minister chairing the board.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Mpati Commission recommended exactly these reforms more than 6 years ago, but no one has implemented
them, yeah. With all the finance ministers we have had 6 years ago, look, again, that commission, I think, it did a very good job because I vividly recall when it was sitting, some of the people who were called in for interview to give comments and inputs, it was the Labour Federation and the administrators of the fund, because P.I.C is the whole of fund, but they've got administrators of the fund. And that was a very good commission, good recommendation. Why not implement it? I don't think we would have been in this crisis if that commission report or recommendations were implemented.
You know what I find awkward? So the DA's own Sarupen holds one of the 2 deputy minister posts, right? Yet the party says it's been sidelined from affecting change.
And again, that was an opportunity. That was a logical opportunity. That when Mr. Masondo resigns, the second deputy the second deputy should have ascended to that position. Then you don't contravene any regulation because you have 2 deputy ministers. And you know that the deputy minister from the DA, he has been quiet at finance. I don't see the role that he's playing actively like other deputy ministers.
He's like 10 rand, that's when you move.
Yeah.
We blow Mr. Fella in the wallet.
Why 10 rand?
10 rand is when
Why not 20 or 50?
10 rand is always minding his own business.
Yeah, no, he's sitting there.
But what of the party commission recommendations then? I mean, surely we wouldn't be here had those been affected 6 years ago.
Fresh, maybe there's an opportunity because there's going to be investigation, obviously, and I think it's going to take very long. It's going to, remember, a whistle for the CEO and the CIO to be suspended, a whistleblower reported something, and actually they say it's 4 whistleblowers reported something about them. There is definitely, something happening, cooking at the P.I.C that has element of corruption. But this is an opportunity for the Minister of Finance and the country to actually implement the Commission's report or recommendations. It's an opportunity. The board is almost non-existent. 2 key figures of the executives are not there. There'll be an investigation. Well, they're still employed, but they are on suspension. And I think they should take advantage of this opportunity to strengthen as well as neutralize the representation in the P.I.C. Change this thing of political office bearers being chairs of that public investment corporation. At the moment, there's an opportunity. Change that, implement the commission's recommendations, put professional people out who are outsiders. Yes, they must still have, or they should still have, a representative of the Treasury at a very senior position, maybe a DDG or a DG to be sitting there as well, but not a political figure. I think they should do away with that.
Let's move to the city of Johannesburg. After months of searching, the ANC has found its man for Johannesburg. Veteran Frank Chikane has emerged as the party's mayoral frontrunner after interviews wrapped up this week, with the extended NEC expected to confirm names before Fikile Mbalula makes the formal announcement. Now, Chikane will represent the ANC in Johannesburg. On Wednesday, the headline in The Citizen was, "Is Helen Zille too old at 75 to be running for mayor?" Ntate Chikane is also 75. Absolutely. So I want us to first weigh in on this, and then also on ageism versus when do we decide that someone is too old for something? Or do we have a double standard when it comes to ageism? Because sometimes we say people are too young, sometimes we say people are too old.
I am, and I'm going to make this very personal. Yes. I am an anti-aged people, people beyond the age of retirement, to be taking administrative positions in government. If you have reached the age where the rule had said you should have retired at 65, I know there are people who are trying to push it to 70. And I don't say people who are above 65 to 8. I know quite a lot of people. One of my life mentors, is above 80, and he still has a sharp mind and experience of life better than many people of my age that I know. I will listen to him more than many people who are in their 40s and 50s.
But would you give him a job to run a city?
No, I will not do that, because these people, let me go to Reverend Chikane and Helen Zille, they should have groomed people within their political parties who could take those positions. The ANC and the DA and all other parties that are bringing retired people, including my political party, that MN Major is 67. Understand?
Yeah, so all three should be Kosasa.
Actually, MN Majava this week said I was supposed to have applied for pension, but I didn't apply. Yeah. So all I'm saying is I don't doubt their capabilities based on track record and experience. Anybody who's older than 65, but I'm saying it will be well within, and we have seen in governments, especially in the Western countries, that the young people in their 40s and 50s perform better. But they don't groom, they don't leave a legacy of developing people who can take over when they go on retirement. And I hear what the Citizen newspaper come from. And yeah, as you said, the few hours after that, ANC announces a 75-year-old Reverend Chikane. Reverend Chikane is well known to have been a good administrator. From the time he was the Secretary General of the South African Council of Churches when we grew up, we saw how he led the SACC, aligned it to the liberation movement, and then Bishop Desmond Tutu, they worked together together with Reverend Chikane, the formation of the UDF, the front of the ANC in the 80s. He was part of that team. He became the DG in the presidency under President Mbeki, with a lot of flaws. Actually thinking of it, I wonder if I succeed in campaigning to be the MMC of Joburg and Reverend Chikane becomes the mayor. Or how will I work with him?
Could the ANC also be being strategic in having Ntate Chikane running for mayor, because it's clear there'll be no clear majority in the city of Johannesburg, and you need people in there that can also negotiate coalition and play the coalition game accordingly?
I think these political parties, and I will not divulge what my party has planned, but I think these political parties, especially the ANC, they are being very strategic, and this move may backfire, but it may help them when it comes to time to negotiate a coalition.
Because for me, it smells like everyone is playing the long game, that we know we're not going to get more than 50%. So we need someone who's fit for purpose when it comes to, one, tolerating coalition politics, That's not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater because now I'm upset or I'm angry or I feel like you're not listening to me.
You see, another thing also that I'm seeing, if there's no outright winner in Joburg, that's going to happen. Remember when President Ramaphosa formed the current GNU? The ANC ran to engage other parties, even in KwaZulu-Natal, where they were not the majority. So it does not mean, and I want to try and explain this in better ways, people must not assume that when you are a majority party, you are the one who should form government. Two minority parties, let's say let's stand and say the ANC gets 40% in Joburg, in the city of Joburg. And let's say Action SA gets 39%, DA gets 37%, roughly thumbs. It does not mean that Action SA or the DA cannot go and consult with other parties to form the government. And like I said,
So for instance, a party that got 30% could find a party that got 20%,
Yes.
a party that got 11%,
yes,
and form government.
and form government.
Because we're 51% now.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
If you have 30, you find somebody with 20 and one with 1%, you form government. You understand? So I'm seeing that going to happen a lot towards the formation of council in Joburg.
So surely then it makes sense for them to buck tradition, because grand obviously Loyiso Masuku should be the one who's going to step up after the election. But also the ANC are breaking tradition, because normally we don't know who the mayoral candidate is until after the thing has happened.
Yeah, but if other parties like the and it looks like it's no. When they go, they will announce on the last week to say this is our last. When the campaign,
But the campaign
closes,
is never around the person.
That never around the person.
Yes.
But Fresh, I think the ANC is learning from parties like the DN Action SA to say it actually works for them to have a person. The people decide to say, I've met so many people who will say, I don't like the DA, but I like Helen Zille. I don't belong to Action SA, but I like Herman Mashaba. So this may be the case and the game that the ANC is playing. I can tell you one of my most reliable sources from the ANC, I had a coffee with him yesterday, and he told me that actually the negotiations, before actually you broke the news to me about this announcement, and he told me before I could even talk to you or read somewhere, because I've not been reading a lot this week, that that thing itself, it has happened, and the negotiations are already happening between political parties to say, who will you work with? You understand? They are already happening.
Unfortunately, you have to be preemptive in situations like this, because you don't want to now start courting someone after the results are out. Let's make friends break bread now.
Yeah. On the other hand, where does it put the electorate? And I think, yes, government must be formed. Yes, we must prepare for that. But this is not fair for the electorate.
Have you guys ever cared about the electorate, you politicians? in the bigger scheme of things.
I care. Fresh, it's very important. Look, I just joined politics now, but I care. On a serious note, I care about the electorate. It's very difficult to go and convince the electorate to say, political party A, you have been coming with a ticket to say we want to unseat the ANC or the DA. Now suddenly when you get into power, you bring them back into power. And that's what the DA has done in the national government, actually. The DA, for all the years, they've been existing as the opposition to unseat the ANC. But look what they've done. They've brought the ANC back into power. And all other parties, one may say they've done it. In the yesteryear, we know how EFF gave the DA, political power in the city of Joburg. We have seen in the city of Tshwane how the ANC and the EFF unset the DA and gave Action SA political power in city. So it does happen. But I now being on the ground, now engaging with people on the ground, trust me, I'm hearing a different tune and story. That people are saying, we are not going to vote you guys into power to bring the ANC back into power. We are not going to vote you into power to go into coalition with the DA, because we have seen what the DA is doing in Cape Town.
Unfortunately, coalitions are inevitable.
Yes, but my word to the voters and the electorate in South Africa is that they must come out and vote. So that they can give one party that they prefer.
Give that
an
preferred
absolute-
party a landslide.
A landslide. Give any party. Then you don't have to worry about coalitions, bringing the people you don't like back into power. And Fresh, now I'm studying the records of IEC voting patterns of various wards. For example, I was in Orange Farm during the course of the week. Do you know in Orange Farm, in the last local elections, that ward only, Ward 1 of Joburg, it's actually Orange Farm. Okay. They had 16,000, the entire ward, approximately 16,000 registered voters. Registered, not potential. You know how many voted? 5,000, about 5,400 only. Yeah. You understand? Only, not even half. So I don't know why people don't want to vote. People have given up. People are angry. People are very upset, but people shouldn't do that, because the only power you have as a citizen of this country is voting, nothing else. There's no other way to run a government except you go and you participate and you vote. But yeah, finally the ANC has announced, but look at the people they are competing with from other political parties or the listed and nominated people from other political parties, that these oldies are going to be competing with young blood. But you will see how politics become interesting. Trust me. Not because of political parties, but because of individuals. Voters are going to go and vote for the elderly people. Yeah. Not the young ones, not the Kenny Kunenes and the who's the other gentleman, Lukona, and it's a sad state of affairs that voters, the majority, it's youth, they will abstain, and the little number of elderly voters in their 40s and 50s and upwards are going to be voting for people in their age. We don't see young people in their 40s and 50s who can run for this. But in concluding this one, the backfire, earlier on I spoke about this may backfire regarding Masuku, who is the first woman to can lead the region of Joburg from the ANC. She's young. She's the deputy mayor current deputy mayor of Joburg. Those who wanted to see Masuka in the ANC, they may actually, cause an upset. Yes. The difficulty about political parties and voting is you may be the member of the ANC and you prefer Masuku. Yes. You don't like or you don't prefer a Reverend Chikane. The factions are still there. Yes. Remember, Reverend Chikane is seen as the Mbekist. Yes. The gang that remained in the ANC, who are anti-Thabo Mbeki, anti-Cope and all that, they may decide, no, I'm not going to vote for my party. I don't want Reverend Chikane. Unfortunately, that's the reality of politics. I know a whole number of people within various spectrums of political parties that when they realize that I'm running, or they got to know that I'm running for office in Joburg, they said, I'm not leaving my political party, I'm not joining your party, but I'm going to vote for your party because I trust you as Botsang.
I'm asking you to speculate.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Masuku will feel hard done by, but obviously will grin and bear it because you must toe the party line? Mm-hmm. Or do you think she understands?
The ANC has the culture of its leader standing up and saying, I'll toe the party line, I'm a deployee, I'll do what the party says I must do. But I think, observing this whole thing and listening to the babies on the side, I think she is going to be very disappointed. And her supporters that put her into that position to defeat Dada Murayo will see that exercise having been a fruitless exercise. And the party culture, practice, and tradition has been broken for the very first time in this instance. Look, I think if they promise her that she'll still come back, if they have the majority as the deputy mayor, and they just want to use Reverend Chikane. But there's also another element, Fresh. When you have used somebody's face as your primary candidate, it does not mean after the election you must put that person. They may inform the IEC that no, I'm declining or I'm resigning or I'm retiring. The next person will take over. So, but I don't think she will be happy with this. I also don't think young supporters of Masuku inside the ANC region of Joburg will be happy to see their elected candidate being snapped, especially being a young black woman who would have been the mayor of Joburg from the ANC, the first female mayor of Joburg from the African National Congress. But that's how politics work.
And then how do you think SG will deal with people who say, why must we parachute someone in when it didn't work for us, Kotswane?
You are recalling the Didiza story, Choko Didiza story. Fresh, the SG Mbalula is going to read them a riot. Should they dare do that? He's going to read them a riot.
So he must be a disciplined cadre and accept that that's where we're going.
That the leadership have embarked on a process. Remember, the other thing that they will catch the so-called ill discipline, because that's what they will name them, is that the ANC announced before that they are changing the way they're going to elect mayors and councillors. It's going to be an application and interview process. So them,
which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad. It's a good thing actually. It's a good thing that's long overdue. But them announcing that first, and the people didn't oppose that, already had put members and supporters and followers of certain individuals in a position to say, you never opposed this process when we brought into the fore as a party. Now you cannot question its outcome. I wish Reverend Chikane would have said no. They must go on retirement, man, including Helen Zille. They should have, please.
But also, there's a lot at stake, and you also need to understand the culture of where I'm deployed as well will go. You see.
But when do they retire, politicians? When do they retire from politics? Because that's their career. Yes. Reverend Chikane is no longer practicing as a pastor or a reverend. He has long stopped that. When do you retire as a politician?
My thing is, if it's good for the goose, it must be good for the gander. Because then don't force my mother when she turns 60 or 65 to stop teaching. Because chances are she's still fit for purpose and she still wants to teach. And she's in fact, if anything, she is like an oracle now that should continue teaching because she knows so much. But at 60, 65, people are pushed out of the positions because you're too old now. Surely then we must allow people to work until they feel they're ready to retire. In that case,
look, like my mother is a nurse who retired at 55. One of those who took an early retirement, but it was also because of that Esidimeni thing.
Oh yes, because she worked at Life Esidimeni, and then her patients were ripped out of her clutches. Yes.
And at 70, she went back to work because she felt like I still have energy in myself. And now she's busy supervising youngsters.
I was going to say, I met Botsang's mother in the West End.
Yeah.
And she works at a home for the elderly.
It's a hospital, it's a home hospital.
Yes, for the elderly. And it's actually something to behold to see that they see her as, you've walked this walk and now you're holding our hands through it. I mean, the way all those young nurses look up to her as you've got the experience, but you're still working. And she's still strong. She's still strong.
I'm telling you, I said to her, look, I'm going back to work. When I go back to work, you must sit at home. Yeah.
And also, if you manage to raise this man, you're strong and you'll last very long. So, if you my experience,
you know, one of my exes who likes calling me, I'm mad, you are crazy. Yes. I'm like, yeah, but you made me crazy and don't you want to heal me? Yes, says, Opa, let's who's a psychiatrist nurse. No woman will ever handle you. When your mom, who's a psychiatrist nurse, couldn't handle you.
Exactly.
Yeah, anyway.
I don't know which ex, but we agree.
Oh, fresh.
Let's go to the Department of Home Affairs. Chidimma Adetshina is back in the South African courtroom. The former Miss South Africa finalist and Miss Universe Nigeria winner is fighting a Home Affairs deportation. It's an order after she was arrested for allegedly sneaking back into the country illegally via Mozambique. Yes.
So it's the and actually I must apologize to Keleto, our executive producer, because I thought we discussed this case last week. And I looked at the episode, we did not. And you see the confusion of being in many platforms. I was on the radio actually discussing that, one radio station. What I want to understand fresh is my understanding, you will guide me on this for me to give an opinion on how immigration and citizenship work. Is Adetshina in court to fight the deportation or to fight for her citizenship? Because for me, those are two different things.
So the state's case, Home Affairs argued in court on the 20th of July that Adetshina holds Nigerian travel documents which demonstrates she has a country she can return to. Her legal team countered that holding a foreign passport doesn't, on its own, establish national ties. But the legal crux of the thing is, although she was born in Soweto in 2001, South Africa doesn't grant unconditional birthright citizenship, and neither her Mozambican mother nor Nigerian father were citizens or permanent residents at the time. But immigration lawyers say Section 2.2 of the Citizenship Act could offer her a pathway if she can prove she was born here, her birth was registered, and she lived here continuously. That's where we are at right now.
Oh, fresh. You know that story.
And obviously the big question now becomes the sins of your mother, should they now curse you?
I said,
because you did not ask to be born, and you did not ask to be born here.
During the week,
Yes.
I said to Tabiso Kotani,
Yes.
Our constitution, and you know, South Africans, I must not cut my head off when I interpret what the law says and the rule. Our constitution was not written in biblical terms, but it was written in humanitarian terms. Sure. We have children's rights. In the Bible, there's a quotation, and for those who believe in the Bible, where apparently, I can't remember who God talked through who that, and I don't know the English version because my dad nara rakastswana. Ketla ita bana ka ntlha ya bokgopo ba batsadi ba bone. So the kids will be punished, or offsprings will be punished due to the wrongdoings of their parents. Now, our constitution does not follow that. Our constitution protects children's rights. Adetshina is no longer a child. She's apparently a 20-something-year-old mother of 2 at the moment. I thought she had 1 child who's around 3. Now it comes out that she has 10. Now, she is what? An undesired person. You know, the other thing that we must also pay attention to, fresh. When Adetshina was stripped of her South African citizenship by the Department of Home Affairs and left the country, because she left voluntarily, that's another thing that we shouldn't forget. Why did we as South Africans, as Home Affairs, declare her an undesirable person? I'm being a devil's advocate. I'm arguing on the other side. Why did we declare an undesirable person, an unwanted person in South Africa? When we all agree that she did not do anything wrong. She broke no law. Her mother broke the law, and that's why the mother is facing criminal charges and investigations at the moment.
In fact, Home Affairs found prima facie evidence her mother registered her birth using fraudulent documents, and her mother has been arrested and charged. But Chidimma was an infant when that happened.
Exactly. So she was an infant. She could have not known or influenced what the mother was doing.
Or being complicit.
Yes, that's the first part. Now, she leaves the country, the Nigerian, because the father is Nigerian. She could have been a Mozambican or a Nigerian, you understand?
But never a South African unless her parents naturalized.
Yes. And never a South African unless their parents were naturalized or one of their parents was a South African.
Or had PR.
Yes, exactly. You know, or had a permanent residence. That's correct. You are correct. Now, at age 22, 23, it comes out that your mother had a fraudulent citizenship. The argument of these lawyers in court is, why punish the child who was not aware of the situation? But I must be very careful to also say, when this thing happened a year or two ago, the Department of Home Affairs and the court knew that there's an opening in the Immigration Act that she should have remedied. She had an option to remedy that situation, to say, I was an infant, I didn't do anything wrong, my parents were wrong, I prefer to be a South African, that's all I know and all that. That is what she is doing now. She's using that option at the moment. And that's why these lawyers who are representing Chidimma, ironically, the lawyer who's representing Chidimma Fresh, and there's another disturbing part, is on the advisory board of the Immigration Board of Home Affairs. I don't know if you are aware of that. Her lawyer is part of the board that advises the Minister of Home Affairs. The Home Affairs has a board, advisory board on immigration.
So her lawyer is
one of those.
Okay.
And again, people were talking about conflict of interest. But if in selecting those boards, you didn't put, she has been in court for many people many times.
Okay, so if you
fighting
don't put
Home Affairs,
that you can't do,
you can't be, yes, because
you can't practice.
You can't practice,
which means then you must pay me for the opportunity cost.
Remember, board members are normally outsiders, business people, and all
Exactly.
that. They should not say you can't practice, but they should have put a clause that says you can't take up cases
against us,
against the department while you are a board member.
But I'm an immigration lawyer. Who else? Then where do I go?
And also,
unless you give me gigs.
By the time you are serving in the board, you should not take cases against us during that period. Not to say you can't, because you have an option not to be a board member. But that's what Chidimma is doing now. And trust me, I think knowing and having I contributed to the Citizenship Act. I was one of the people who contributed to it when they asked us to do it now. I've worked with the Immigration Act 13 years of my life. I think she stands, looking at the law, not to say I like her, I agree with her decision. I think she stands legally a better chance to be granted a South African either citizenship or residence. Okay. She stands a better chance legally. And looking at the reasoning, she was not a South African. Another question which I asked Fresh, they say she entered the country now illegally via Lebombo border post from Mozambique. So by road, how? If you were an undesired person, there's something called a visa list. People used to call it in the old days the blacklist. Yes, of people who are not wanted in the country. The minute she presented her passport at Lebombo border post, the system would have flagged her. She should have not entered.
Because if they're saying she sneaked back into the country, it implies that she didn't use a passport or that she jumped a fence. But if she just used the passport, then she just walked back in, Mus.
Yes, so we don't know what do they mean by sneaking back into the country. Did she jump over the crocodile or the fence? But if she used the passport,
it's not sneaking in then.
No, it's not sneaking in. It's not sneaking. The system allowed her in. Home Affairs allowed her into the country. If she was an undesired person and she entered the country with a Nigerian passport, what kind of blockage did they put on the system? You understand? I've worked with that system for many years of my life. If you are on the visa list, actually, the minute your name or even your name only is presented, the system will flag you. It will show the immigration official that this person is an undesired or unwanted person in the country. But how did, if Chidimma is an undesired person, that you don't even want her in with the, why is she not flagged? Why is she in the country? And these are some of the things that one has to look into. And I don't think they had put her on the visa list. They had said that they had revoked her citizenship, which was acquired fraudulently.
Sure. But not by her.
Not by her. And that the country saying, Botsang, we have discovered that both your parents are not South African. You were born in Krugersdorp, but your parents are not South Africans. Therefore, we are taking away your citizenship. It does not take away my right to visit this country.
Oh, yes.
You understand? It does not.
Or to live in it.
Or to live in it if I apply for residence permit. It does not take that right away. It takes your citizenship right away. But you come with a foreign passport of another country, it does not take that right to visit you.
So To borrow from Trevor Noah's book, so is the state then saying that because you were born a crime, you're not welcome here?
That's the point that she's going to win this case on. You were born a crime. It does not mean you are a criminal. It does not mean that you're still a human being. You've got your individual human right to citizenship.
So Nigeria saying you are our daughter, and she even being given a Nigerian passport, surely will weaken her case when it comes to saying, I only know one place. Because now you have another home you can go to.
Yeah. But again, we must differentiate between being a resident and a citizen. If Chidimma is approaching the court now to say, I want to reside in South Africa, that's the only place I know my kids were born here. Whether I was born here illegally or not, that's not my argument. My argument is I want to reside in South Africa. If I was here, I don't know what the court papers are saying. If I was here, I will actually make two applications. One for citizenship, two for residence. Because you are already carrying a passport of another country. But at the beginning of this conversation, he did mention that carrying a passport of another country does not make you a citizen of that country.
Absolutely.
Passport is a travel document. And so
No, but normally, for instance, if you're a permanent resident, you can't apply for a passport. So surely if you have a travel document, because travel documents normally are strictly for citizens.
not
and not-
absolutely.
And not just for people. So, for instance, in the last I checked in South Africa, if you have your permanent residence, you're not entitled to a travel document.
Yes.
It's only once you naturalize.
Once you are
that
naturalized.
you can get a passport.
Exactly.
So you can have the ID, but you can't have the passport.
Yes, but there's another element. There's an issue of dual citizenship. If for example, the UK and South Africa, we have this argument of dual citizenship. The UK people and South Africa, I know many people who are carrying both the passport of South Africa and of the UK, and they use them interchangeably. So if we have that agreement, bilateral agreement with Nigeria, or we allow dual citizenship between Nigeria and South Africa, then the state argument will be weak. But here at the moment, using a Nigerian passport, it does work to some extent to a detriment. But she may argue, if I was her lawyer, I would argue in court that it was, I received under duress because my citizenship was being stuck. And politically, I was telling somebody, has anybody asked herself or himself, why is Chidimma fighting for this? What is at stake? Who's funding her legal fees? Who's pushing this? For me, I was thinking about that. No, there is. Let me tell you, Chidimma is a mine. Is a platinum mine. Chidimma is an international face. She's a model, and a lot of models and stars, or the so-called celebrities, Cape Town is a very good environment for them to can propel to the world. It creates better opportunities. People are investing on her because of what she may be. She may be a face of one of the international, beauty products. And there is money in her. And that's why these people have vested interest in her. But again, Fresh, if you know Lagos vis-a-vis Cape Town, and you are in your 20s, and you are an international, face or figure, the lifestyle in between Lagos and Cape Town for a 20-something-year-old, even people in their 30s, me and you, we may sit. Look, I want to live in a village or a farm now. I'm not excited about a city, but for youngsters, to go and take them off Cape Town into Lagos, there's also those, elements of interest. But we are waiting for judgment in that case. Looking at the facts and looking at what transpired and looking at the history, and based on my experience in citizenship and immigration issues, I think she's got a better chance to can win her case, to either be granted her citizenship back or at least a resident status in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's move to Madlanga and Advocate Johnson from IDAC.
Hey,
What happened there?
it has not been nice for Advocate Johnson here. Look, Fresh, I think one of the very green flags for Madlanga Commission, it's with Advocate Johnson. It has exposed the rot in IDAC, the police service, because it's all linked. IDAC is linked to the NPA, or the agency of the NPA and the police. and it has exposed the rot. I think for me, what took a flag was Advocate Johnson conceding and or admitting to almost all the wrongdoings and things we were speculating on that IDAC was doing wrong. Allegations that were there out that her office was used, or had as a person, was used to settle the political squabbles as well as interfights within the police. The questioning that has been in the media for many years of questioning the qualifications and the appointment of one of the generals who's on the Free State.
Mukweli.
Mukweli, yes.
Yes, she was a BMW mechatronics engineer. At
Yes.
the time she was hired. And Johnson approved the prosecution memorandum that led to Mukweli's arrest without reviewing her job application or examining her qualifications. Because she later conceded that actually Mukweli was fully qualified. But all of this led to for instance, the corruption case against crime intelligence boss Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo.
Yeah. And look at the harm they have caused and the damage in persons they have caused to Khumalo, to Mukweli. And what was the reason? And I'm probably asking you, the viewers, the wrong question.
And also, Mukweli caught smoke for this.
A lot. But also how she reacted. When I reflected on this during the course of this week, the way she kept calm and cool, it shows either level of education, level-headed, because she didn't go out and defend and splash her qualifications to defend herself. She sat back and she let this thing happen. And look at how Khumalo was nearly arrested a few weeks ago. For one of the reasons Khumalo was supposed to be arrested was appointment of Mukweli. And these people have been quiet about this whole thing until Madlanga said, the Madlanga Commission said and exposed all this. Look, I'm very disappointed with Advocate Johnson. I am also very disappointed with Parliament, the ad hoc committee, because she appeared there, if you recall, that they couldn't crack this. They didn't ask the relevant questions. How come those parliamentarians failed to uproot and open this kind of simple basic things? Why did it have to go to the Madlanga Commission to can question such?
Because also the narrative that has been pushed all along was almost that Mukweli usbana ko reception. But you know what I mean? That was the narrative generally.
Yeah.
That someone was just plucked from BMW.
Yeah.
Maybe she's making tea there, and now she's in a position she's not qualified for. But when you look at the requirements for the post, and her she's actually overqualified.
She's overqualified for a post. Advocate Andrea Johnson actually considered to the fact that looking at it now, looking at her CV and qualifications, she's overqualified for the post. So what have we been doing with state monies to can destroy people's life like that? But that's not all. Many things that happen. Her leaking information to suspected criminals. He leaking information between herself and Mr. Adams, the member of parliament who was arrested recently as well for interfering with police work. The rot at the high echelons of the justice, and not at justice, we are still in the prosecuting and the police service, has destroyed people's life. We have now come to know, thanks to Madlanga Commission, that one of the generals who was assassinated, that we thought or we were told he died of COVID, was actually killed, poisoned. That was also another brutal way of poisoning and killing a person. And the Madlanga Commission, through Advocate Johnson, has exposed what the family of, I forgot the name of the gentleman, who, hey, nobody must bring that poison anywhere near to me. They say you choke on your blood, like you start bleeding.
You bleed internally.
Yes, but you also choke of the blood, you start vomiting, blood coming out of the nose and ears and
basically
all
you drown in your own fluids.
Yes. I mean that's a brutal way of killing a person who was investigating one of the cases that this general who was assassinated, one of the cases he was investigating, it was regarding the President Ramaphosa's dealings and all those things. And some of the old cases that are linking to the president, and And how are we expecting as a nation that men and women in blue must do their job? When they do their job, we assassinate them, we destroy their careers, we lie about them, and the nation is expecting them to do their job. So it means the police must not investigate the elite of this country. And those in powerful positions, they must only investigate the nobodies. And it is not fair because it has come out clear to us as a nation that the so-called elites and people in high excellence and top positions are the most corrupt ones. And that's right. So it's very tough for subs. But yeah, it has been rough for Advocate Johnson. I think this lady should resign with immediate effect. I think after Madlanga, I won't be surprised if she gets arrested next week. You see how Madlanga operates. What I don't like about the Madlanga inspectorate or police, because remember they've been giving inspectorate, so they arrest people on Friday.
They wait until Friday. So at least if Ukra Bailey, it become Monday.
Yeah, but no, you don't want to spend the whole weekend in prison.
So who apologizes to Dineo Mukwele after the reputation, the arrest, the headlines?
Formally, officially, the newspapers must, who wrote that rubbish without investigating. 1, 2, subs must apologize to her formally, and she probably will get some payout because normally she can take a civil claim against IDAC and subs.
For malicious prosecution.
Yes. But during the course of this week, Advocate Andrea Johnson was asked by Justice Madlanga if she is going to apologize, and she said not only apologize but withdraw all the allegations and utterances she had said about her. And I had found that to be very noble of her today. It's too late, the damage is done. The lady's reputation and hurt, but she said she will withdraw all that and apologize. But I think officially the South African Police Service and IDAC must apologize to Mukwele.
Okay. Can we wrap it up in West Africa?
Oh, yes.
South Africa has been reported to the continent. Ghanaian President John Mahama has secured a commitment from AU Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf to place xenophobic attacks against African nationals in South Africa on the agenda of AU's next meeting.
Previously, I would have said South Africa must dismiss that as rubbish and refuse to interfere in that. But my diplomatic mind kicked in. I think President Ramaphosa and Minister Lamola, they must actually welcome this complaint to the AU. They must welcome it and they must attend to it. I'll tell you why. It is an opportunity for South Africa to stand in front of the continental body.
On record.
On record.
Yes.
And rubbish this thing on record. It is an opportunity for South Africa to go and question the applicant or the one who's tabling the motion, who's the Prime Minister or President of Ghana, to go and say, what are your sources or basis or records of the xenophobic claims you are doing? And
here, because obviously it'll be based on whatever they're going to base it on. And South Africa also has receipts that South Africa is under siege. You see, and not excusing people that have used this as an excuse to attack foreigners. We're not going to deny that happened, that there are some people who took advantage of this wave. But the long and the short of it is there is an illegal immigration problem, and the receipts are there. The fact that there's so many people who have said, I want to go home, but they don't have papers to go home. That in itself is problematic. And the fact that, and remember I said it to you before, that if you say to me, your child is in my house illegally and I caught them doing this and that, the first thing I want to do is apologize to you. That I'm sorry, I apologize unreservedly if anyone from my family has, caused harm in your house. And then if I also feel that, yes, my child was in your house, but you also treated them unfairly, then we can address both of the issues. But you can't almost want to make it about the fact that I might have administered some sort of justice, whatever that looks like, but not concede that, but they had no business in your house illegally. Because we can do both at the same time. And again, we're not excusing people that decided to take the law into their own hands. All lawlessness is wrong.
And actually, the primary point, Fresh, should be in South Africa's defense. I wish I could be part of that delegation. One, South Africa did condemn. First, the government warned the anti-foreigners and protesters not to take the law into their hands. The government was very clear. Yes. Secondly, South Africa condemned those who took advantage of the peaceful protest. Thirdly, South Africa arrested some of the people who committed those crimes of physically attacking people.
In fact, I think by 4 a.m. on June 30th, already there's a 15-year-old who was arrested breaking into a foreign national's a tuck shop.
Tuck shop, yes. Yeah. There were approximately 900 people who were arrested. So there's not been physical xenophobic, and I don't know why do they call it xenophobic. There's been acts of criminality that has been happening, and we as a nation, we have addressed it as acts of criminality, and it must be condemned, and the criminals must be treated under the criminal act of the country. That's one part. The second part is, that's a diplomatic platform of the continent. This is an opportunity for South Africa to go and lead a riot to these countries like Ghana, Malawi, and all that you can't come and bring us here and say we are xenophobic when you don't call your criminals to order first. Call your citizens criminals for whatever reasons. Whether it's poverty, whether it's a war, whether it's hunger, does not make a person to commit crime. The president of Ghana should have actually first said to his citizens who are here illegal, you are criminals in South Africa. You committed a crime by getting into that country illegally or overstaying in the country. It's a criminal offense. And that's it. The second part, Fresh, this is interesting. I went to read history about this. And it's very interesting because I've got vested interest in immigration and international affairs. Do you know that Ghana is one of the first African countries that has a export of labor policy? For example, there are more doctors, Ghanaian doctors, in the UK and the US than in Ghana. And they didn't go as a doctor, I'm going to look for a job, like this happens. No, it's a well-documented, it's a policy of the government of Ghana to send their youth and youngsters under a government program, an exchange program to the UK and the US. That's why there are so many Ghanaian doctors in those countries. They don't come individually, they don't apply for jobs. They go under this program, and Ghana has been doing it for years. Why do they do that? There are countries like Canada which actually want a migration of young people because they are normally an aged nation. So they need young people to come and serve their older people. So they encourage immigration into their country. Ghana, it's one of the countries that has that agreement with the UK, with the US, and with Canada. Ghana has that. They have a policy. So in this policy, there are benefits. When you get a work permit to go and work, as an example, as a doctor in Canada, when you go under this program, the government of the Republic of Ghana benefits something from your income in the UK.
Okay.
Yes,
a tithe of sorts.
A tithe of sorts. For example, I recall when I was stationed in Mozambique for an international organization, for a Danish NGO, I had a choice to pay my taxes in Mozambique because I was not a diplomat, to pay my taxes in Mozambique or in South Africa. But because this NGO was treated like an international organization, it was exempted from tax, then I volunteered to pay my taxes in South Africa because South Africa wanted to know, because I was sending money into my bank account, so it was an income.
Is it taxed?
Yes. So I would have taken cash there and be exempted from tax, but I registered with SARS because I was putting money in my account. So South African government was benefiting. The same program, Ghana is using it officially. There's incentive, there's benefits. When you finish your 5-year contract under this program, you can move to another country and you send money home to invest. You can build a house. So they've got that policy. That's why they are lamenting. I was wondering, why is Ghana crying so much more than any other country? Because they're not the mainly affected. The most affected is Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. maybe Lesotho to some extent. I was asking myself, why is Ghana crying? Because they've got a policy in that country of sending people out to make money to benefit the country instead of creating opportunities internally.
Yeah, but they're sent officially, though.
Yes, they're sent officially.
Yeah, it's not like they jump over the
No,
fence.
they're sent officially. But remember, when South Africans rise and say to the South African government, even those who came legally, you can't give them jobs, for example, in state hospitals when we've got South African doctors who could work. Remember, there's that element as well. It's why give jobs to foreign nationals when we have our youth and our people. Ghana is sending its youth to various countries under their program that they have to care for that they can be equipped, experienced, and make money. South Africans are saying to South African government, we can't accept that. We can't accept qualified people, legally coming in people into the country to come and do jobs. How many doctors? We have about 1,000 doctors in South Africa who are qualified, who are unemployed. They are looking for jobs. My question is, why should we take a doctor from Ghana who's qualified, who comes here legally to go and work at Kalafong Hospital when we have a doctor in Atteridgeville who's qualified without a job? And this is what Minister Lamola must go and defend the country at the AU, and all those old African leaders who are not doing good for their own countries and they want South Africa to carry that burden. That's not xenophobic. South Africa is carrying a burden of the continent. And it's not only the continent, but we are talking about the AU at the moment. And I think as much as we are going to be diplomatic in addressing this whole thing, we should demonstrate that part of people wanting to come to South Africa for greener pastures, it is because their governments have failed them. Now they want to cry to the AU what to do.
Because that is the bigger issue, that why are so many of your people running away from opportunities at home? Because there aren't opportunities at home.
Yes.
And what are you doing to remedy that? Because, I'm a big believer in, yes, go out there and sow your royal oats if that's what you're doing. But at some stage, you need to go back home and help build your country, rebuild your country, invest, create opportunities, etc., etc. And if you're going to look at a handful of criminality that happened hiding behind the concern over illegal immigration, then you're missing the bigger point here.
Yes.
Because it's not government policy. The government has never condoned it. And if anything, South African government has actually spoken out against it, that no criminality will be tolerated.
Yes. Actually, we were crying as a nation to say to the interministerial committee and the president, you even put a special budget of 500 million towards that interministerial committee. It shows that the country cares. The refugee centers, the tents and all that. The government even deployed the military fresh. The military. And South Africans were saying, hey, but this government, we are protesting against illegality. They even deployed the military on us. And if the principals of other African states, they don't see those efforts, I think they must go and be taught that effort. I mean, for example, I wonder if these presidents of Africa or leaders or diplomats, do they know that South Africa has the highest unemployed youth population in the world? We have the highest. What are they saying about that? What are they saying about acts of brutal criminality? The poor lady and her daughter in Durban last week, a citizen of which country stabbed her many times. She's still in a critical condition in hospital because she discovered that the brother of this lady, he discovered that the brother of this lady was part of March on March. Imagine you stab my sister because I belong to some protest organization. You go, my sister is your girlfriend. This guy nearly killed. The lady is still in critical. The family doesn't think he will survive. What are they saying about such brutal activities? And I think in defense of the country, look, the AU, I still say it's a useless, toothless dogs that is doing nothing for the continent. But Lamola must go to the AU and read them a riot. We must roll our sleeves because our name as a country is being soiled. And we must defend the country.
Absolutely. And defend it at an official gathering and platform, not with press releases.
You see, exactly, not with press releases. Like the attempt, because what the president of Ghana is doing is exactly what Donald Trump was due. It's exactly that there's xenophobia against white people in South Africa, or there's mass murder of white people. I mean, how? But anyway, why am I surprised when Ghana itself has been the puppet of the USA for so many years? You know, they've lost the pride of being the black star of Africa, being the first country to gain independence led by Kwame Nkrumah. And look what Ghana has become now. They go with for whatever America wants. America even puts leaders in that country. And they're forgetting fresh. The viewers and the listeners can go and check history. The president of Ghana is forgetting that they are one of the countries that once ran an official campaign when the people of Ghana were chasing Nigerians. They were very clear to say, we don't want Nigerians anymore in Ghana. They're forgetting they did that yesterday. And why is it wrong when another country is doing it? And South Africa is not chasing our African brothers and sisters away. South Africans are saying, come here legally, stay here legally, and comply with the laws. Simple.
And when your visa expires, renew your visa. Go home, and if you need to go out and re-enter, but you can't have people, staying indefinitely, but there's no record that they came in or they left. It's unfair to expect a nation to sit and watch it happen.
It's very unfair.
Unfortunately.
Yes, Fresh. Thanks, man.
I think we're done, though.
Thank you very much, Fresh.
Yo, what a show.
Yeah.
What a week. How do we find you online, sir?
botsang@gmail.com, and we can continue chatting on WhatsApp, +2783 884 7787, and then at Botsang on social media handles.
Yes, sir. I'll see you in a week.
Thank you, Fresh, and thanks to the viewers. See you next week.
We're done with another episode of Wow What a Week, #Politricks. We're coming to you from Discover TV. Let them be your stage. You can find Discover TV in 4 ways in Johannesburg. Shout out to Trevor and his crew at Pezulu Works, and to Keletso Modisa King, our executive producer. My name is Fresh. His name is Botsang, and you are incredible. Thank you for watching us and for loving us. We are part of the Africa Podcast Network. Email us at waw@africapodcastnetwork.com. Until next week, have a wow week in spite of yourself.